Nice sort of to be quite a simple, more convex one, and then other one a bit more complex with concave or even a hole through it. Complete those, and then you were to look and see if you could get something that, a bit like, we did with neighbours, now you've made your own neighbours, find something that is between the two. So, and that's, we can work a little bit more with that. What I want to look at to say, can we create something that then would go in these gaps? But I want also to just draw attention, we might actually do it with these models, is that there are three ways of modeling. One you might say, which is very much using your will, and you could say there's a willing will, a feeling will, and a thinking will. In the sense that, when we've molded these with our hands and pushing the clay, and shaping clay, shifting the clay, it's the sort of same volume, but you move it around. You can call, I would say, a bit more like a willing will. But if you, no, we haven't actually done it, we perhaps need to do it, is if you take a little shape and then you take some other bits and you build it up. I'll just grab a bit of this one. You might say, I want to build up that, and I take this, and you start to put little, you build it up from the outside. You can call that sort of a feeling will, because you've got to sort of feel just where you put everything like that. And then you can have, so that's one way of creating it. You're not shifting it around, but you're just feeling where it should go. And then the other one, more the thinking will, is to have something, okay, I'll take, this will do for the time being, where you've got something and you think, right, you've got this one, I'll just, you take away, you're sort of cutting into the thing as a more head-oriented process. At least that's what I think anyway, so I don't know what you feel. And so what I'm suggesting is that we can work a little bit more with these and then see how can we do something in here and in here, but in one of them use this one feeling will by taking a shape and building on it with just experience that as a process, and with the other one take up something and try and work with a cutting away process, and we'll just sort of experience the difference in the process but we're still trying to find something between forms. Is that too complicated? So it is complicated.
Two more forms.
Yeah, one halfway between these two, and one halfway between these two.
But we should work on these ones before we do the two.
Yeah, you can work these ones, you might feel, because you might want to smooth them off. What I've been trying to put a little bit before is with the spoons, is try and feel a feeling for the surfaces, the flow of the surfaces. When we first do it, it's still got a lot of thumb marks all over it, and the sculpture in itself, you can feel is a form that underlies it, and it's got these flowing surfaces, and it's part of trying to discover those flowing surfaces as a sculpture process. That, I think, is a maturing part of the sculptural process, is actually you end up simplifying something down to sort of essential forms. For people like Henry Moore and others, you find that's what they're doing in a way. They're sort of honing it down to key, there's not many surfaces, but they're just very interesting surfaces. So it's just a little bit to take these things and can you then just get those and feel the surface rather than the texture. Okay. So, Jared, you can take a couple of pieces here and make two contrasting pieces, which you might say the end pieces of your. Yeah, you. Are there spoons there, or is it we have to go and get them?
They're coming.
Oh, they're coming. Wonderful.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think probably the order to do this one is to do one that you carve away, then you'll have lots of little bits in the next one to put on. So. I think I've got a porpoise nose here.
Sometimes I have a hard time once I've identified strongly with what it seems to look like. I have a hard time getting away from it. If I need to.
That's sometimes you can get it. It can be very representative.
Stuck on a label.
And yeah, so partly I'm trying to get it so that you can get not so much representative, but have a feeling for the dynamic of the form, of the surface and moving along the surface of the form. That's where using a spoon, by sliding along it, you can begin to feel, when you're smoothing it, you begin to feel something of that dynamic. I mean, for those who are using spoons, do you feel that? You're exploring the actual surface?
Yeah.
Because in a way you're still using what I'd call the will process. You're pushing the clay around, by pushing down, you're sort of smoothing it by just pushing it down and around. You're not taking it off or adding it on. If you work with stone, there's only one way you can go, and that is by removal. And even if you do a smoothing process, a rasp, but still taking off the high points, you're not pushing the high points into the low points. So it's always a reduction process. Do you feel that your thing has dried at all since Friday? I mean,
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, because it's 3 days and it hasn't done much. Do you find modeling in your classes quite a silent activity?
Yeah, because I tell them they can't talk.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
You don't tell them that, or you don't?
I guess I don't do as much modeling as I did last year. so it's more of like a free art activity.
Oh,
so
yes.
therefore it becomes, it's not as directed and it's more chit chat, kind of thing going on. So
I get the overwhelming feeling that if they talk, that they're learning absolutely nothing and that there's no inner experience.
I think that's probably close to it. I think.
I'm being pestered by flies. Is it me or is it everyone?
It's
No, it's everyone. You know, a lot of flies.
That's true. I know the adding, like, I don't know where I'm going with this. So.
Aren't you supposed to go halfway between the others?
No.
Well, you might have to do some adding and then some subtracting as well.
I know. I think I'm sort of going for the bighorn sheep bison thing head, but I don't know what it's saying to me.
When do you leave for your trip?
The 11th.
Bison.
Now, what if when we added it is no longer the intermediary form of, what I mean?
You might
Were we
have-
supposed to keep that in
Yeah, well, that's the idea, that you keep it in mind.
No, Robin, I'm the worst.
It's too much at once, is
It's
it?
visual instruction. She does not get the
have a problem listening, getting the whole picture.
I actually have like a little bet in my head every time you get the instructions. Like, what's she gonna
Yeah,
do?
so I have Ice Age Venus and a gerbil and a baseball.
Oh, okay.
So tell me what's going on here.
You might need to change this.
Well, you might have to have 3 ideas in a row, and what's the idea, the picture for that one, and then
What are we
go for
talking
that.
about? Could be something about the Earth's evolution. Mammals came after the dinosaurs.
The gerbil epoch.
Yeah, the gerbil epoch. And this was the first cell that arose on Earth. So I have some room to move in here. Dinosaur here. And maybe like a whale right here.
I think it's a donkey.
Your donkey. Okay. That's right.
Whatever visual picture works for you. But basically, with the carving one, you have to start with something bigger than what you're going to finish with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Hey, Molly, we'll get me a chunk over there as well.
Like how much is a chunk? You want a lot?
This size chunk.
You're Michelangelo making David.
You want some more?
Yeah.
I've got some. Do you want more than that?
That's good.
Of course, you could do this exercise by doing the middle one first, then doing a bit to either side, then going more extreme the other way too. That would be, could be quite an interesting way of doing it too. Much more open-ended.
I could also, if I can't get this one in between these two, I could go back and change this one.
Yeah, well, that's yeah, that is one way of a possible solution. Yes, but part of it, because part of the exercise, can you get 3 things that you sort of feel there's it's like an incarnation. You go away, then there's a next incarnation, which is related but moved on. There's a definite step on from each one.
Now that you said donkey, all I can think about is donkey. Donkey.
I don't think that'll help you very much in this modeling exercise.
Yeah.
So we've got 12 minutes or less.
Sculpting is for the dogs, let me tell you. It's not for me. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Could you imagine being like an artist where you had to like produce?
Oh yeah,
You know, like,
time.
Produce or you don't, or go hungry.
yeah.
Will we be working on the same things tomorrow?
I expect we will be finishing off. So because Friday really is a kind of closing off day, so we went over. So we've got 3 more sessions. How do you people feel you need? It needs another session with us, doesn't it? It's not finished yet. So we'll have another 2. We'll look for another 2 activities.
So you think tomorrow the full day will be given over to...
It could be that we take, an interesting one, I don't know if you've done it, is to take an ear. You have to have 4 people sit round. And I look at her ear, somebody looks at my ear, she looks at that, Or 5 could do it too. And that's fascinating because you're then trying to model, not to imagine thing, but now you're trying to see, you've got something and you try and, can I shape that? Can I replicate that shape? So you've got much more, it's much tighter in its bounds than this is more free form. The alternative is to take noses, and 2 people can. Each little group almost needs its own set of its own little board, doesn't it?